Are you making these photography mistakes? Well, I'm about to tell you exactly how to fix them. Hey everyone, it's Rylan with Rylan's Amazing Photography, and today I want to talk about some common photography mistakes that everyone from beginners all the way to professionals make, and I want to talk about how you can fix them. So this first mistake is one of the most terrifying for me, and it almost hurts me to say, oh gosh, but I remember I was a beginner once and I used to accidentally shoot in this, and it makes me cringe to think that happened, but I want to help people fix this. So stop shooting in JPEG. That's the first photography mistake. The first mistake that I think that you can make as a photographer is shooting in JPEG. Now, I understand that there's professionals that shoot in JPEG, a lot of amateurs shoot in JPEG, and especially a lot of enthusiasts shoot in JPEG. But I just want to let you all know that you should not be shooting in JPEG. Now, granted, if you're just like someone that likes to take pictures at family events, or you just have like a little DSLR that you take with you to some places and snap some photos to go get prints at Walmart or something, then you know what? Shoot in JPEG. Shoot in JPEG if you're not going to edit, if you're not going to do anything with the photo but get a print or post it on Facebook or something, go for it. You're going to save yourself storage, and it's not really going to matter because you're not editing anyways. But if you're a professional photographer and you have files that need to be edited, you're going to want to be shooting in RAW. I promise you that. I really do. Shooting in RAW is so important. It gives you so much more detail in a shot. And I don't necessarily mean quality-wise. Here's what I mean. If you blow out your highlights, if you overexpose an image, it's so easy to recover that with a RAW file. It just gives you more dynamic range. If a photo is too dark, if you underexpose it, if the shadows are way too low, it's easy to recover those with a RAW file, and it just gives you more range and more ability to alter an image than you get with a JPEG. Recently on TikTok, I posted a video where I show some of my final images and then I show the RAWs, and it actually performed really well on TikTok. But a lot of people were shocked, and I think a lot of people was like, oh, you're an editor, you're not a photographer, and I expected that because the images were quite a bit different than the originals, which were the RAW files. But that shows you that if you have a RAW file, you're able to exceptionally alter your images to look like 10 times better, probably more than 10 times better. But stop shooting in JPEG. It's easy to do. If you have a Nikon camera, you can go in and change it to an NEF format. I'm not 100% with the other RAW formats that other cameras have, but you can easily go into settings and change this. It's so important to shoot RAW. Please look up more about this. If this isn't giving you enough information on here, go Google, should I shoot in RAW? I guarantee you it's going to be telling you to shoot in RAW, and you can look up how to change JPEGs to RAW on your camera. Just Google it. So yes, start shooting in RAW. So next up, we have a big problem that a lot of professionals even make on, I mean, a lot of people make this mistake, and it's not backing up your work. Now, this can be a big problem, especially if like a client comes to you 3-4 years later and they're like, hey, our house just burned down, we want these pictures back. Is there any way that you can give us those pictures? And you would be like, oh, well, I don't have those. I didn't keep them on file. Or if your primary storage fails, which can happen a lot, if you lose your storage device somehow, if your computer crashes and all of your pictures are stored on your computer, well, you're in trouble. I mean, it's really important to back up your files. I like to back up mine with external hard drives. These things have saved my life more times than I can count. The camera kind of focuses on it. This is just one that I found on Amazon. They can be kind of expensive. It's not like crazy overpriced or anything, but they're really important, and I really do mean that. I'm not just saying that because I want you all to go and buy an external hard drive and waste your money. If I lost all of my pictures, I would be devastated, but I don't really have to worry about that with keeping them stored on my computer, on my phone, on an external hard drive. And I don't know, I have my pictures backed up in a variety of places, but having that external hard drive with all of my RAW files, with all of my edited files, it just gives me peace of mind. and it makes me not worried that I'm going to lose something in the future, because that would be terrible to lose years of your work and have nothing to show for. Next up, this is also a really big photography mistake, but it's easy to fix, and it's over editing your photos. Now this can be done by amateurs and beginners most commonly, but even professional photographers can over edit their photos. You can bring up the saturation way too much. You can bring up the clarity way too much. And granted, you should have your own way of editing. You shouldn't go and copy someone else's and be like, well, I'm going to edit this picture exactly how they did, because you want to have your own style. But at the same time, don't go and drag your saturation to 100 and your clarity to 100 and your sharpness to 100. You just shouldn't do that. That makes the image look not realistic. And majority of the time in photography, especially if you're shooting for a client or something, or if you're shooting wildlife or landscapes, something like that, you're going to want the image to look as realistic as it did to the human eye. Now, I get if you're shooting portraits, if you want to do a creative edit and stuff, that's different. But at the same time, if you're doing a creative edit, you still shouldn't overdo it. Don't pull the clarity all the way up. Don't do the saturation all the way up. It's just important to kind of keep a good, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but kind of keep a good thought in your mind. Does this look overdone? Does this look unrealistic? And if it gets to the point where it looks entirely unrealistic, even if it's a creative edit, you should probably step back away from your computer for an hour or so, come back, and then just kind of not necessarily start over, but kind of restructure your edit. It's really important to not over edit an image, because it can make a really good photo look like trash, if we're being honest, and nobody wants that. So just don't ever over edit your images. Before I talk about more common photography mistakes and how you can fix them, I want to thank today's sponsor of this video, me. That's right, I'm sponsoring today's video. I sell a variety of products over on my website, www.rollandsamazingphotography.com. I have prints, I have books, I have calendars. There's so many things that you can purchase to help support me. Most recently, I started my very own photography blog. In fact, it just launched today, so go check it out. Head over to www.rollandsamazingphotography.com, and then you can check out my prints, my blog, my book, my calendars. There's so many great products that help support me, and I think you will love them. Most importantly, check out my blog. You can head over to www.rollandsamazingphotography.com/RollandsBlog. Thanks so much, and you're not going to regret checking out the blog. It's going to be fun. I'm gonna post on there a lot, and it's just kind of my thoughts on photography. If you enjoy these videos, you'll enjoy a quick morning read. The next mistake I want to talk about is so common, even in professional photographers, and it's always shooting at eye level. I talked about this a lot in my wildlife photography tutorial that's an hour long. I guess if you want to watch that, I'll link it up in the top right hand corner of your screens. But in that tutorial, I talk about how it's really important to kind of have another perspective on the subject that you're photographing. And this doesn't just apply to wildlife. Everyone can see the world from eye level. Everyone can look at an animal and like look down on them. If you have a pet, if you have a dog, you're probably looking down on them majority of the time, so anyone can take a picture standing up looking down on the dog. But what makes it interesting is when you get down on the dog's eye level. That's going to like add an entire new composition. It's going to make your photo look 10 times better. And even if you can get below the subject, that's even better. This also applies to portrait photography. Now in portrait photography, I don't recommend getting below the subject, because that can make the person look like they have a double chin, and it's just not as flattering of an effect. But what you can do is get a step ladder or some sort of stool and stand on it and look down on the subject, and that's going to give a different perspective besides eye level. Everyone can shoot at eye level. I can take my phone, I can shoot at eye level, but it provides an interesting perspective when you switch things up and shoot at different angles. So it's really easy to fix that mistake, and you got to try it out. The next common mistake is so common, and it drives me crazy. Like I'm taking the glasses off for this because I'm getting serious. I'm getting serious. That's weird, isn't it? That's kind of weird that I'm getting serious. Anyways, please don't do this. Center your subject in a photo. Do not center your subject in a photo. That's a really common beginner mistake. Now, I'm not saying that there's never a time and a place to center a subject, because it does have its place in photography, but majority of the time you're going to want to use a compositional technique called the rule of thirds. Now, I also talk about this in my wildlife photography tutorial, but I'm going to give you a basic overview of it right now. Imagine that there are 4 imaginary lines going through a photo. I'm going to overlay it on this video screen, so there's you can see 9 different boxes. Here's the goal that you should try to do. You should try to have your subject somewhere on one of those lines and not directly in like the middle of one of those boxes. It's going to look best if your subject is on one of those lines, or it's going to look even better if it's on a point where the lines intersect. So like somewhere around in here. I'm not exactly sure where the lines are at, but it just looks better that way. Now you're probably thinking, well, Rylan, you're centered for this video. Isn't that wrong? Well, like I said, center compositions do have a time and place, and a lot of that is if you're doing like a portrait or if you're talking on a video. A lot of the times it's going to look better centered. It has its time and place, but for the majority of the time it's going to look better if you're off-centered, if you're on one of those lines, if you're using the rule of thirds. And an important technique to keep in mind along with the rule of thirds, I also talk about this in my wildlife photography tutorial, is the rule of space. If you have a subject that's moving, you're going to want to make sure that there's blank space in front of the subject. Like if I'm walking this direction, you're going to want the space to be here rather than me looking this way and there being no space in front of me. That's the rule of space. That was just like a brief explanation of that. I go in depth in my wildlife photography tutorial, but it's just something that's important to keep in mind. So just please be mindful if you do center your subject that a lot of the times it's not going to look the best that way, and you might be holding back your photo a little bit, and it might not be hitting its full potential because of your compositional technique. But it's easy to fix. Just teach yourself the rule of thirds. So ladies and gentlemen, those are the most common photography mistakes and how you can fix them. If this video did help you out, please be sure to go down below and hit the like button. If you watched this video all the way through and you're not subscribed, why not go hit that red subscribe button? It helps me out a lot. Leave a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to comment it down below. If there's a photography mistake that's very common that you don't think I remembered to bring up, please comment that down below and I will answer back on how I think that you can fix that. There's a lot of mistakes in photography. I tried to go over the most common ones that popped into my mind today. I hope it does help you. If you're struggling with photography, just keep going, keep pushing. I've got a lot of tutorials. I have a lot of entertainment on my channel that can help you out. One of the best ways that I taught myself photography was through the entertainment of other photographers, not even watching tutorials. I loved watching how photographers went out in the field and shot their own work, and that honestly helped me improve. It helped me improve more than anything, I believe, in my career. Remember to go and check out my website, www.rylandsamazingphotography.com. Be sure to check out my blog. I'm really excited to start that. My first article is on why you should be joining TikTok as a photographer. It's not just a silly platform for kids. That's what I'm going to leave it at. Go read it. Link down below in the description. Thanks so much again for watching, and I hope you all have an amazing day.